Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Neo Reality, and I am here to be speaking on the behalf of the reigning, defending, undisputed, most unpassionate, laziest part-timer in the history of the WWE. Mostly for the last several years after the Undertaker feud, but that's beside the point. Brock Lesnar! Yeah, as you could clearly tell from what I have just said, I have basically now lost complete and total interest in Lesnar after this year has ended. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Brock Lesnar can't make a good match. He can. It's just, from the way things look for him, how nowadays he performs, yeah, no. Okay, I'll get to that at the end of the video, but let me go ahead and discuss Brock Lesnar's 2017 of mostly disappointment. Okay, so after Brock Lesnar was revealed to be announced for the Royal Rumble after Survivor Series and after his humiliating loss to Goldberg, Brock Lesnar returned on January 16th episode of Raw to confront all the Royal Rumble participants, attacking Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, and everyone had assumed not to be in the Royal Rumble, Roman Reigns, who sadly was in the Royal Rumble because of reasons I'll get into when I talk about Roman Reigns, that or Randy Orton. So, yeah, and then on the final Raw before Royal Rumble, we got actually a pretty awesome moment. Goldberg calls Brock Lesnar a dumbass. Yeah. And then Brock Lesnar, being the offended man that he is, goes down to the ring, ready for a fight. Then we hear the familiar gong. Yep, The Undertaker has returned, and he is confronting the one guy who has beaten him so many times that it had to be a controversial victory to finally get at least one victory over Brock Lesnar, and a guy he's never faced. And everyone said, like, I'll admit it, it was an awesome moment. I didn't know Undertaker was going to be there. In fact, no one knew Undertaker was there. So, yeah, WWE can actually put in a surprising moment like they did with the Dudley Boys when they made their unexpected return that was never revealed, and actually get some hype for it, whereas nowadays WWE just ruins it. But they either build it up to huge fanfare, or they want to go ahead and build something up, but they want to make a surprise appearance, but most of the time it doesn't work unless it's someone who's very nostalgic. Because, let's be honest, when people saw Ruby Riott make her debut in the most, boringest way possible with her cohorts Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, the only people who really freaked out were really the NXT fan base. But to the casual fan, they were like, who the fuck are these three? So, yeah, that's the one major problem. So, after that, Brock Lesnar enters at number 26 and proceeds to beat the holy crap out of everybody, because that's how Lesnar operates. He goes on to eliminate Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, and Enzo Amore, and Enzo decides to commit suicide practically by charging after Lesnar himself, before ultimately confronting his rival Goldberg, who entered at number 28 and was quickly eliminated by Lesnar after a spear. Now, his involvement in the Royal Rumble match was 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking of something else. No. Much worse. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And it took 2 moves for Goldberg to beat him. So, yeah. And as we know, Brock Lesnar's a part-timer, therefore he does not give two shits. So long as he gets a big fat stack of cash, I'm pretty sure he doesn't care. So, yeah, after the Royal Rumble, Lesnar had made one more challenge to Goldberg for a match at WrestleMania, and Goldberg accepts this challenge on February 6th, while also being given the #1 contendership for Kevin Owens' Universal Championship. And Goldberg and Paul Heyman once again go ahead and say that if Kevin Owens beats Goldberg, then Goldberg has a weakness. If Goldberg beats Kevin Owens, it's going to be turned into a championship match. So basically nobody wins in the end. Well, except for Kevin Owens, if they wanted to push a younger guy over a guy who, let's be honest, can't really wrestle a long match, as it's been proven. So yeah, at WrestleMania 33, after a build up, Lesnar fought Goldberg in a match that was very destructive, but was only 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Yeah. And he would win the Universal Championship, winning his 5th world title overall. The first man to have won both the WWE Championship and Universal Championship. And I'm surprised Vince did not have an aneurysm when he realized, oh no, my precious Roman Reigns isn't the first. And Lesnar also became the 2nd person to kick out from Goldberg's jackhammer, and gave Goldberg his first and seemingly only clean loss of his professional wrestling career. Now, people were wondering, wait, who kicked out of the jackhammer before Brock Lesnar? Well, that's an interesting story. It was, unsurprisingly for many, if I say his name, here's the best way to describe it. If I say this person's name, fans, everyone who is on the internet who knows about this guy and his shadiness and his comments and his tweets that he deleted regarding the hurricane disaster in Florida, but that was a completely different matter I don't like to go into because I'll be pissed off again. Then they will say, the moment I say his name, they'll say, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. The first person to kick out Goldberg's jackhammer was back in 1999 on WCW to Hollywood Hogan. And right there, you know why that happened. Now, they tried to make the reason that Kevin Nash... Okay, I saw the video. From what it technically could look like, Kevin Nash got into the ring late because he's, at that time can't move as fast. Even now, he technically can't. And he was getting older and older and therefore slower and slower. And because he took so long trying to get into the ring, Hulk Hogan was forced to kick out. Though, considering how WCW was being operated, especially in 1999, would it not be surprising if Hulk Hogan deliberately told Kevin Nash not to get in the ring so he can be the first guy to kick out? Because, Hulk Hogan loves that tension. But the person to give him the first clean loss he ever suffered for Goldberg? Wow, that's pretty surprising. And now that I think about it, I can't think of one match that he ever lost clean. In fact, his first ever loss was due to a taser. And no one likes to talk about that. Let's see. Every other match he's always been screwed. He's always been hit in the head by some outside party. Even Scott Steiner's match with Goldberg back in 2000, while when I first watched it, I thought it was okay. Even that had outside interference, and yet Scott Steiner still got a huge boost of momentum for a couple of months until WCW went out of business, but that's a different matter. Because of that, there's really nothing big going to happen on that. And now we hear... And then I was thinking, wait, you mean to tell me Triple H, who in this point of time when he was feuding with Goldberg was in the middle of his Reign of Terror days on Raw, didn't deliver the first clean loss to him? Huh. That honestly was surprising. I was thinking, the only people I can think of that would want to be the first guy to beat him clean without any excuses would either have been Hulk Hogan in WCW, Terry Bollea, Triple H, Kevin Nash, and that's pretty much it. So, none of those three guys beat Goldberg clean. There was always with an excuse. That honestly surprised me. Like, huh. Like, out of everyone, I would suspect those three to be the most likely candidates. But no, it's given to Brock Lesnar. Heck, the other candidate I could believe would be Roman Reigns, but they never did a match, so we'll never know if that was ever going to be a plan had they not had Lesnar for that show. So, yeah. So, with him winning the Universal Championship and Paul Heyman basically doing his work of talking and him just standing around doing virtually nothing, maybe do a couple of suplexes and get sold on a hit. But, yeah. He is gone for a couple of months after Braun Strowman had tried to challenge him and only not to be given that match until No Mercy. But let's move on. He would not return to a match in the ring. Okay. WrestleMania 33 was in April. His first title defense and first match since WrestleMania was on July 9th. Where he would feud with the surprising guy, Samoa Joe. And the build-up surprisingly got Joe a lot of big momentum. And I was really hoping that, well, I understand the Goldberg match. I'm like, okay, maybe we could get something good out of this. Samoa Joe beats the crap out of him. And I was like, oh, maybe Samoa Joe might actually win. Like, this would be awesome. And nope. One move, victory, it's over. Okay, the official match started as a total of 6 minutes and 25 seconds. Before that, Samoa Joe attacked him from behind before the match started, which looked like to have been at least 3 to 4 minutes. So a percentage of that match was not recorded as an official timing. Yeah. And like, okay, like, so it was 6 minutes and 25 seconds, and Brock Lesnar's beaten up. Okay, at least he'll lose, right? Nope, he does one F5 and maybe 2 German suplexes. He gets the victory on a guy who's been built up as a monster who should technically have lost after 3 F5s at best. Yeah, so that was disappointing. And then Brock Lesnar defeats him again at a live house show that no one gives a shit about. So then, on July 31st edition of Raw, after controversy regarding Reigns, Joe, and Strowman, Kurt Angle had announced that it would be a Fatal 4-Way match as the main event of SummerSlam. Lesnar and Heyman then appeared, becoming pissed off, even though they somewhat acknowledged the past with Kurt Angle and Lesnar, announcing that they would both leave WWE should Lesnar lose the championship in that match, after stating that there's a conspiracy to get the title off of him, and I would not be surprised if there was secretly a group of people in the back that wish for that. But everyone was wondering, wait, why does he might leave now? Like, his contract's not up till WrestleMania next year at WrestleMania 34, so what happened? Well, here's the thing that was going on off the side. Remember the whole controversy he had regarding the potential doping he committed with the whole UFC match he committed? Well, on February 14th, Lesnar had notified UFC that he was retiring from MMA for the second time, even though his suspension was going to go out after sometime in July of this year, or 2017. And his match with Mark Hunt was overturned to a no contest, so that's a different matter. Lesnar had notified UFC that he was retiring. Well, there was a guy on UFC who was making statements towards Lesnar and demanding a match with him, saying he can knock Lesnar out after his match on UFC. I don't remember who it was, but I do know that about a few weeks later, before SummerSlam, a few weeks after that declaration, before SummerSlam, it was revealed he got suspended. So any plans that they were probably going to do with that guy and Brock Lesnar was called off, because now that guy's been suspended because he's also been caught with enhancement things. So yeah. So yeah, and this happened like several weeks, about a few days at best before SummerSlam, and the event happened, but word didn't get out until after SummerSlam. Like, they were trying to keep it hidden because they wanted the prediction not to be so obvious. And Lesnar, okay, during the build-up to it, there's a lot of speculation that Lesnar was going to drop the title, leave, and then come back at Royal Rumble to do something. And then the belt was either going to go to either Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman surprisingly was advocating for Samoa Joe to be the guy. I would have been all for that. In fact, I would have been all for anyone taking the belt off of Lesnar, because this part-time experiment is not working regarding a championship, because we're not in the old days where the world champion could be gone for 3 months, come back like Hogan used to do. But at least Hogan, I can't believe I had to say this, at least Hogan has the excuse that WWE didn't operate the way things were now. So, yeah. So, yeah. After Lesnar would fight in that match, Strowman kicked his ass a lot, and Samoa Joe got some shots in. Roman Reigns took the fall, surprisingly, and the match was 20 minutes and 45 seconds. And remember how I mentioned Strowman kicked his ass? Yeah, it was so bad that Lesnar was gone for half of the match. Why am I referencing all this stuff, and specifically the timings of the matches that Lesnar was in this year? Okay, like I said, that leads to the build-up at the end. So after this, Lesnar was then attacked by Strowman, who it was later announced that the two would face off for the title at No Mercy. And during the build-up, Strowman was becoming the dominant beast, and Lesnar was basically being a stepping stool, a foot rug for Strowman. Like, yeah, I know you're a beast, but come on, Strowman is kicking more ass than you, and he's more full-time than you, so yeah, I would say give the belt to him. Especially, like I said, we saw a little bit of humanity with Lesnar when he was shocked that this monster among men, without the need of the Undertaker's supernatural abilities in storyline context, managed to get up after being German suplexed. And like I said in the Braun Strowman video, I loved it when Strowman yelled to Lesnar, "I'm not going to Suplex City!" and whatnot, and that was just an awesome moment. And then I was like, okay, they have to, like, at best, they have to make Strowman get the title. Like, I did not care. Like, I knew Lesnar wasn't leaving till after WrestleMania, but come on. Do people really want to see Lesnar versus Reigns? Like I said in a video before, I'm not against them having a match together. It's just, do I want them to main event WrestleMania again? Where this guy is clearly not giving any shits anymore. Like, fuck you, I already have my money, so basically I don't even need to put in the additional effort. Unless it's somebody he likes. So, yeah. Strowman would lose to Lesnar in 9 minutes with a Kimura lock that Strowman barely managed to get out of, and 1 F5. Okay, remember how I mentioned Samoa Joe should have been beaten by 3 F5s to just at least look like he was impossible to be beaten? Yeah, double that with Strowman, and that's what should have happened. That match should have gone on much longer than intended. But here's the thing, a report had came out that Lesnar did not want to work with him. He didn't want to work with him. He basically said, fuck it. It's been said that Lesnar doesn't seem to like to work with guys he doesn't like or doesn't want to work with, and if he's told to not, and if he's told you gotta work with him, he's not gonna put in the effort. And when from that moment, I started thinking, what is Lesnar really contributing? Yeah, when Goldberg came back, at least we hadn't seen him in over a decade. And it made the returns more memorable. But Lesnar has been around for a couple of years, showing up, but not as much. But at the same time, at least back then, he was doing some good matches with Cena, sadly, with Triple H, with CM Punk, and with The Undertaker. But then after that, everything just stopped. Yeah. And during the build-up to Survivor Series, Lesnar was now being told, okay, work with Jinder Mahal. And apparently Lesnar did not want to work with him, most likely because fans did not want to see that match. And it was originally planned that Lesnar was going to fight Jinder Mahal. And yeah, there was no worth to that. Like, no one wanted to see this match. No one in the entire freaking planet. The only positive anyone said regarding what they would love to see if they did do Jinder Mahal versus Lesnar is even relating to Jinder Mahal. They kept saying, no, I don't care about Jinder Mahal. I want to see how Lesnar treats the Singh brothers. I want to see how far he can throw them. That's the only benefit fans felt like they would have gotten out of that match, and it doesn't even relate to Jinder Mahal. It's relating to his servants. So when WWE realized, oh shit, we have nothing working here, they decided to give the title back to Styles, and with only a week to build this up, yeah, they did the best they could, but yeah, Lesnar does nothing, Paul Heyman does his speaking, Strowman and Styles and Bryan, however, were kicking Lesnar's ass on the mic. Like, Daniel Bryan, okay, when Daniel Bryan cut that promo on Lesnar, it felt like it was the ultimate I don't give a damn mentality. Like, it felt like, wait, the way Bryan's acting, the way he's referencing all this stuff about Lesnar's past in UFC and how he doesn't seem to care, it just sounds like, combine that originally Bryan wanted to fight Lesnar when he's still wrestling, even though after his neck surgery I deemed that should not happen for various reasons, mostly because Lesnar will most likely kill him or paralyze him at best. Worst is death. Because, you know, Lesnar has a German suplex-based system, and Vince McMahon and WWE have an injury fetish, and they don't really like Bryan, as clearly shown in the recent years in terms of 2014 after he got injured, and then at the end of, when, you know, mostly in 2014 when they used the fans' love for him to manipulate their cheers to promote the network for free in November, which is still the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Oh, and have Bryan technically lie about a second surgery regarding his arm, that he's losing strength in his arm, which was true, but it was revealed he was using a technique that actually gave strength back to his arm, so that surgery never happened. So basically that get well message was complete bullshit. So yeah, it felt like Bryan was always, he had written up this promo he always wanted to cut on Lesnar during the build-up to their dream match they wanted to do, but since he can't wrestle anymore in WWE, he can't do that. So, like, if he's not gonna do it, he's living vicariously through Styles. And, you know, that's kind of awesome. And now, let's see, Styles actually says something. Oh my god, we're breaking new ground! The client of a guy is talking? And the person the client is representing is talking? Oh, we're not ready for this! Like, at best, Lesnar, like, says, like, 1, 2, at best 3 words, and that was only with Seth Rollins. So, yeah, then we finally got the match. Lesnar and Styles delivered an awesome match. Most likely because, here's the thing, Lesnar wanted to work with Styles. That's the only reason that match was good. And that match was 15 minutes and 25 seconds. So, yeah. And then, after that, there's nothing left for him. He has nothing left to do for the rest of the year. He just shows up once in December and then leaves again regarding the triple threat match for the Royal Rumble between him and Kane and Strowman. Even though originally it was going to be Finn Balor, however, Vince says he's not over enough, so therefore he's not worthy. And I've already ranted enough about that and the Styles video. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for Lesnar's 2017. And like I said, this is the year I just practically lost all interest on seeing Lesnar on TV. So, this is what I wrote on Bleacher Report regarding someone giving a huge review of Lesnar's 2017, which you can check out by, what was his name again? Eric Baston. You can check that out. I made a long list. I made a long explanation why I just no longer care. Like, I said this. I've lost all interest in seeing Lesnar on TV. Don't get me wrong, huge fan. But ever since Cena in 2014, we got the same style from him. And then they add a, quote, genius idea. Do nothing for half of the match and come back and win. The exception was Taker in 2015, but really, nothing's changed since. And then I gave a list of matches that he did from 2016 to 2017. Okay. So, in Royal Rumble 2016, he was only in that match for 9 minutes and 31 seconds. Mostly dominate, then get overpowered by the Wyatt family at the end by Bray Wyatt, and then afterwards do nothing. Then his Fastlane match with Ambrose and Reigns, huge chunk of that time was dedicated to nothing but being powerbombed through a table just to get him out of the match. Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt, 4 minutes and 3 seconds, though I didn't really complain that much because Bray Wyatt was reportedly having a back injury at the time, so they had to put Luke Harper as the fall victim, sadly. Dean Ambrose was 13 minutes and 6 seconds, which was a massive disappointment because, here's the thing, Ambrose wanted to put more dangerous stunts in there. He wanted to take more bumps. He wanted to add some more chaos and destruction to really buy into this no-holds-barred street fight. But Lesnar, Vince did not want to do that. So since Lesnar has the say pretty much now, he can say no and they will not do it. So basically Ambrose didn't give two shits. So Lesnar didn't give two shits. And now this is what we got from them. And here's the thing. Lesnar also had no passion to work with Ambrose. He wanted to work with Wyatt, but because circumstances changed, they scrapped that. And then was gone for several months and would fight Randy Orton at SummerSlam for 11 minutes and 45 seconds. Pretty much dominated that match. Goldberg was 1 minute and 26 seconds. And, okay, his two Goldberg matches, I forgave them because it's Goldberg. He's not in that condition where he could at least do a good solid 6 minutes at best. Like, yeah. But really, in the Royal Rumble match in 2017, like I said, I'd already gone over his matches in 2017's time. And this is what I said after I had listed them. Out of all those matches I listed, how many were actual back and forth as opposed to dominate and win or get dominated and win with little effort? One. One single match with an actual back and forth. AJ Styles? Why? Because Lesnar was said to actually have wanted to work with him. It was said he never wanted to work with Braun, leading to that layers of horrible suckitude of Strowman and Lesnar. Goldberg couldn't work long matches, so I gave Lesnar a pass on that. Lesnar didn't want to work with Ambrose and refused to do any big spots with Ambrose in that match. He really wanted to work with Wyatt. So, Reigns, Cena, and Taker, well, with the exception of Taker, Lesnar seems practically indifferent with the former two, but WWE favors them, so they force Lesnar to work a back and forth matches with them. But if Lesnar is put in a multi-man match, he will do some injury angle for a huge chunk of time, come back, dominate, and win, but will ultimately mean nothing in the grand scheme of things with the injury angle. Like, remember when Seth Rollins broke the Beast's ribs? And everyone thought, oh, maybe they're going to do something with it. Nope, that's never brought up at WrestleMania. And then I also said this. Or if it's somehow Lesnar doesn't want to work with, if it's someone Lesnar doesn't want to work with, he will not put in the effort to get our money's worth. And then I listed this out. I mean, look at the length of matches when he was an actual full-time star and putting back and forth matches. And I listed mostly pay-per-view matches. One of them being a SmackDown match. I also could have added CM Punk, but WWE doesn't like to talk about that because, you know, Punk's the devil to many people. to Vince's mind at least. Like, they went so far as to put a sticky note on Punk's head as if that would mean something, other than them looking incredibly petty. So, okay, his last full-length match in pay-per-view was with Eddie Guerrero, 30 minutes and 7 seconds. 2003 was Undertaker, 24 minutes, 14 seconds. Kurt Angle, 20 minutes and 48 seconds. Kurt Angle, again, an hour long, the legendary Iron Man match on a SmackDown, no less. Then we got his WrestleMania match, which was 21 minutes and 7 seconds. In 2002, we had Brock Lesnar versus Edge, with Paul Heyman being a handicap partner for Brock Lesnar, but really it was just Lesnar dominating, which was 18 minutes and 50 seconds. The Undertaker again in 2002, 27 minutes and 18 seconds, and that was an awesome Hell in a Cell match. And their first encounter on pay-per-view was 20 minutes and 27 seconds, and The Rock was 15 minutes and 50 seconds. And then I had said this, and those are just some of his pay-per-view matches and one SmackDown when he was a full-time, which WWE seems to allude that he quit last time because he hated full-time working in WWE. Now he gets so much money and ever so rarely does these kind of matches. It's only with people he likes. But then I said this, but I'm not surprised because WWE kept saying that if he's part-time, he's exempt from the wellness policy because suspending him would be pointless, even though I kept saying you could just fine him for failing the drug tests. Like, just strip Roman Reigns of $100,000 out of live for a month's worth of $100,000 from live shows spanned because he was suspended for 30 days. Why don't you do the same thing except take a cut out of his paycheck? And then I had said this. Lesnar, as a star, could be argued that he's worth the money to have, but as a performer, that's very questionable. Heck, the whole Roman's sleeping chants people make, and those who claim he's a lazy worker, he puts in 20 to 30 minutes back and forth performances in single matches and performs throughout in multi-man matches, and yet is being called lazy and dozing off. So I said this at the end. So by that logic, shouldn't we start chanting Lesnar sleeping or Lesnar's lazy at every show he performs at from now on? Yeah. Like, I've lost all interest in seeing Lesnar. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of his talent and work, but now it just doesn't seem like he really cares about actually doing the matches. And like I said, WWE keeps alluding that Lesnar didn't like working full-time, which is why he never signed to be a full-time guy again, and why he went to UFC, because he doesn't need to put in that much effort in terms of going to show to show to show. He can show up once a month, be done, and go out. Except, here's the difference with the UFC matches. They're meant to be short, it'd be surprising if it went long, and they're more brutal-based. They're more physical contact based, whereas WWE is all scripted and they try to protect their workers a little too much sometimes, some people might say, but that's a different matter. But, like, okay, remember when Lesnar showed up for Undertaker one more time at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view? Yeah, that wasn't the plan. Originally, they were going to do that for WrestleMania next year in 2016, but they wanted to change plans and get him to do the match a lot sooner than intended, and Lesnar didn't want to do it unless they did something. He asked for $1 million and they gave it to him. Yeah, the whole Go to Hell tour that Lesnar was doing with Big Show, with a couple of Raw appearances, and his culmination match with Undertaker at Hell in a Cell, inside Hell in a Cell, that only happened because he asked for $1 million. Yeah. Why does he still work? Like the day comes, Lesnar leaves WWE. I will say, good. Like, as much as you're a star, a box office attraction, as a performer, you're just not worth it anymore. That it's very questionable. You can, like, unless I can go ahead, make a bunch of guys you do like to work with, you probably will still not care. The build-up will just mostly you either dominating some other guy, some poor sap, but it's not called a wrestling match because it's an angle, so it doesn't count as a match because he doesn't like full-time working. But wait, but at the live event shows they're like barely 10 minutes at best. Like, yeah. So I was like, and like I said, his full-time run, I only mentioned one SmackDown that was really back and forth, and that was the legendary Iron Man match. Okay, imagine if all these guys, if WWE was operating the way it was now back then, could you have really imagined Lesnar working that kind of power in those kind of matches? Would he have really put it in a 30-minute match with Eddie Guerrero? Undertaker, he probably would have. Kurt Angle, he probably would have. But with Edge and The Rock? Yeah, I don't know about those two. Or Eddie Guerrero. And like I said, these are just pay-per-view matches, and one being a SmackDown match with a guy he does like to work with and he's best friends with. But, yeah, WWE gives him so much money because they know he's a box office attraction, but it's like, okay, even if he's a box office attraction, if he's not delivering what everyone said he used to be, what's the point? Back during his early part-time run, he was delivering. But after The Undertaker lost at WrestleMania to him, it's like they found okay, we don't need to put in effort anymore. He beat The Undertaker, therefore he's automatically powerful. I like the first time it was awesome, probably because of my desire to see Cena be punished for his sins against the wrestling industry, mostly burying people, but I wasn't asking for permanent injury or permanent damage. I'm not that sadistic. But at least there was something for him to feel how it feels to be beaten up and be dominated, where he does the same thing. So, yeah, and now we learned last year, he's exempt from the drug policies. He's exempt from the wellness policy. So he can take as many drugs as he wants. He's a part-timer. He can get away with it. So, yeah, I've just lost all interest in seeing Lesnar. Really, 2015 was starting to decline for me. 2016 was starting to decline for me regarding the whole wellness policy because he's a part-timer, therefore he can't be punished, even though you could fine him and take some money from him because God knows you need it since you're doing so much budget cuts this year. In 2017 alone you did. And, yeah, like, you could put him on the show, people will flock, but the moment he doesn't put in that effort like he could, like they've seen him do back then, and even in UFC, they're gonna stop. Like, the people, like, when Goldberg came back, like I said, Goldberg hadn't been around in over 10 years. He has not wrestled a match in over 10 years. That's a big difference. The people wanted to see that. But at the same time, fans knew that at best they were going to get like a 5-minute match, and Goldberg really couldn't do the level of work he could do back then, which at best was an 11-minute match during his time in WWE. And if he had a long match, he mostly managed to do very little because he couldn't work a long match. He was not a wrestling-based guy, or he was not even a Roman Reigns wrestling-based guy. They kept saying he had stamina issues, but yeah, the very fact that happened should, so I forgave Goldberg and Lesnar when they had to work together because I knew that something wasn't going to work, because I knew the matches weren't going to be long. But for the rest, yeah, that's So, yeah, for me, Lesnar's run is at this endgame thing. Lesnar's said to be leaving after WrestleMania when he drops the towel to Roman Reigns and obviously what will be the main event. So don't feel like you have anything to watch regarding the triple threat match unless Lesnar wants to put in actual effort. And I don't even think he'll work Elimination Chamber. like, because he would have to defend it inside the Elimination Chamber, though Seth Rollins didn't defend it inside the Elimination Chamber, so something like that could happen. And at best, if Lesnar did work in the Elimination Chamber, they'll make him go last because he doesn't want to work a long match. Especially in a multi-man match, he can get out. He can just kick back, relax for what, depending on how much. Okay, let's see. 2 guys already in the ring. There's 4 pods, so 15 minutes. He can just kick back and relax and watch the other guys do the matches for him, and then come out, dominate, get the wins, and that's it. So yeah, like I said, Lesnar as a box office star, that can be argued he's worth getting the money for. But as a performer in the ring and how he delivers nowadays is very questionable now. And like I said, if we're going with the logic of Roman's lazy, even though he has put in more matches than Brock Lesnar in his part-time runs that are more like classics for me, I can go back and watch back then I could watch a Brock Lesnar match, but now I can watch, okay, what Brock Lesnar matches can I watch? I could watch his match with CM Punk, his matches with Triple H, his one Extreme Rules match with John Cena, which ended horribly, his SummerSlam match where he basically dominated. I do not count his WrestleMania 30 match because it was very uncomfortable. And his Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker. I can only watch up to 7. I believe I counted up to 7 matches throughout his entire part-time run. Whereas Roman, let's see, the Fatal 4-Way match, let's see, the Big Show match at Extreme Rules, and the Last Man Standing match, his first ever match with Cesaro, let's see, his match with Sheamus at TLC, especially the ending, I can watch that all over again. His matches with Seth Rollins, his matches, let's see, who else? Heck, I can even watch Triple H versus Roman Reigns because at least there was effort being put in. It was horribly botched, but it was still an effort. They were trying their damnedest to make a classic out of it, but due to the excruciating time length and the fans' hatred, I can't. And Roman Reigns versus Lesnar is at least a match I can watch that relates to both of them, but still, Roman Reigns is trying his damnedest to make this work. Heck, I can even watch Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker because it's an emotional moment, whereas Lesnar's style of wrestling is making it uncomfortable because Undertaker's health isn't as great as it used to be. So, yeah. All these matches, I just listed more than 7 for Roman Reigns. That should say something. So, if we're still going with the whole Roman sleeping or Roman's lazy, the fans should start chanting Lesnar's sleeping or Lesnar's lazy at every show he performs at, which is like what, at best 6 at half of his house shows, not even broadcast on TV nowadays. So yeah, like I said, I just want this part-time era Lesnar kickstarted thanks to The Rock. Rock set the foundations up. But actually Hulk Hogan set the foundations up, Rock started solidifying it, and then Lesnar made it stay. And now look what the position we're at regarding this. Like, Punk left because part-timers were practically ruling the company. At least, and here's the thing. The part-timers the other part-timers had an excuse as to why they don't show up as much. Okay, let's see. Triple H has to also be a businessman. He has to work with the executives. He can't do that he can't both wrestle all the time and work backstage. He can't do that anymore. His power, his influence, his position and power has grown so much that he can't wrestle as much at full time like fans used to love. Let's see. The Rock, he had Hollywood commitments. Let's see, who else? Oh, The Undertaker. His body was starting to catch up. His age was starting to catch up with his body after years of physical abuse in the ring. That's at least a logical explanation. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. Even Cena has somewhat of an excuse. He has to do all these TV deals and all these Hollywood deals. I mean, granted, he's become a hypocrite now because he condemned The Rock for that, and now he's trying to go ahead and do it now himself. But at least he has a legitimate reason. What does Lesnar have? Like, he doesn't like to do talk show interviews. He doesn't like to do any of that. He prefers to be private with his life. So, what, he goes hunting? Like, he has been known to go hunting, but that's it? Like, yeah. Like, yeah, he could spend time with his family, but there's a ton of wrestlers who want to spend time with their families, but Lesnar has a luxury here. We hardly ever hear about his family. Yeah, like I hadn't even known that Lesnar was married to Sable until, like, what, 5 years ago? And it turns out they've been married for over a decade by that point. Yeah, and then I heard Lesnar had kids, and I was like, when the fuck did that happen? Huh, I didn't know that. So, yeah. The family part dynamic I did not know about. Like, Lesnar at least can spend time with them, but there's a lot of full-time guys who put more effort in nowadays for practically less money than Lesnar's getting, and they bust their asses for it, and only to be oppressed by Vince McMahon creatively, unless they're a John Cena. Or Vince's personal favorite, Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns is more like oppressed as well because he's not allowed to be who he wants to be in the ring with developing a personality. So, yeah. Or turn heel. So, yeah, I'm like, there's all these, like, even CM Punk, he could have went part-time, and because of all the injuries starting to affect his body and how he was getting sick, he could have done part-time. He still worked full-time because he thought, okay, it's all going to lead up to something. It's all going to lead up to me getting to WrestleMania. That was always his vision, that all these solids he did for Vince, yeah, he got backstabbed for it. And yet he still worked full-time, even though he could have made an excuse to go part-time. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to be a representative for the locker room. He wanted to say, you see, this is what we do in the business. Not go ahead, be gone for 6 months, be paid millions of dollars to show up like 3 times a year in a match, and do a bunch of segments where you're just jumping around on your feet and suplexing people because, oh, I don't know, you're supposed to look awesome for some reason. So, yeah, like I said, huge fan of Lesnar, but now my interest in seeing him on TV has completely diminished. So, yeah, that's practically my thoughts on Lesnar's 2017. I don't think I'll make a 2018 video because he'll only be around for barely half of the year since he's leaving after WrestleMania next year, unless his contract gets renewed somehow. So, I'm just going to end it here before I go more into a circle and wanting to whine about Lesnar's seemingly lack of motivation nowadays. So, yeah, those were my thoughts on Brock Lesnar's disappointing 2017. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. And stay tuned for more. And by God, the goddess is among us.